Chapter 2. The next prophecy respecting the Messiah, or discovery that was made of him to the sons of men, was made to Abraham. Genesis 22 verse 18. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Now, in the former prophecy, it was left undiscovered and undetermined out of what people or nation the Messiah would arise, and only in general declared that he should be the seed of the woman. But in this, it is expressed in plain terms that he should be of the seed and posterity of Abraham, as Jesus, a true Messiah, was, who, Hebrews 2 verse 16, did not upon him the nature of angels, but the seed of Abraham, and is therefore justly called, Matthew 1:1, Abraham's son. But for the better understanding of this prophecy, two things should be inquired into. One, what is meant by the seed of Abraham, in whom all nations should be blessed? And two, what advantages the nations of the world should receive by this promised seed. First, it will be proper to inquire who is meant by the seed of Abraham, in whom all the nations of the earth are to be blessed. Now, this seed cannot intend Isaac, the immediate seed of Abraham, because this blessing, in the extensiveness of it, was never verified in him. Besides, it is carried down to his posterity, Genesis 26 verse 4, as not terminating in him. It is not being intended of him, and for the very same reasons it cannot design Jacob, the immediate seed of Isaac. See Genesis 28 verse 14. Nor has it ever received its completion in the whole body of the Israelitish nation, the posterity of Jacob. For what advantages have the nations of the world ever received from them? Or when and how have they been blessed by them? Or the Jews ever been the occasion of any blessing to them? Whilst they continued in their own land, they dwelt alone and were not reckoned among the nations. They kept themselves at the utmost distance from other people, their religion, laws and customs being different from them, and they would have no communion with them, either in civil or sacred account, nor any conversation. They would not perform any civilities to them, no, not even the common offices of humanity. Nay, there was a real enmity in the Jews against the Gentiles. The former thought it no crime to do any hurt or mischief to the latter, either in person or estate. Nay, their hatred has run so high as even to do all they could to hinder their everlasting salvation, and all arising from a mistaken sense, Deuteronomy 23 verse 6. And since the destruction of their civil polity and their dispersion, the nations have received no advantage from them. They have not been in a capacity to give them any assistance, so that as the nations of the world, they never are likely to be blessed to these people, who have always been so far from being accounted a blessing to them, that their name has been used by a reproach, and as a proverb or a taunt and a curse, wherever they've been driven. From thence it appears that the nations of the world never took up this as a form of blessing among them. God bless you, as he did the Israelites or seed of Abraham, which a late author thinks to be the sense of the phrase here, from its use in all other places, in which sense it is true. He has the concurrence of the greatest part of the modern Jews, authorities which he at other times treats with the most contempt. But no one instance can be produced when the nations of the world ever use such a form of blessing as this, nor does the use of the phrase in all other places determine this to be the sense of it here. Deuteronomy 29 verse 19, Psalm 71, Psalm 72 verse 17, Isaiah 65 verse 16, Jeremiah 2 verse 2. There is not the least foundation for such an interpretation. Besides, in the parallel text, the word is used of Nephil in a passive form, as in Genesis 12:3, and chapter 18, verse 18, and 28, verse 14, which directs us to the plain sense of the words in this. And as to Genesis 48, verse 20, the only place produced in favour of this sense, the word is purely active, and so no proof of the use of it in a different form. And though that text informs us what would be a usual form of blessing amongst the Jews, yet neither that nor any other text nor any history, either sacred or profane, acquaints us that or any other Jewish form of blessing would be used among the Gentiles. Now, as it appears that this prophecy never has its completion either in the more near posterity of Abraham, as Isaac or Jacob, or in his more remote, even the whole body of the Jewish nation in any age or period of time, it remains that some other person or persons must be fixed upon, which can be no other than Messiah, even Jesus, to whom the apostles have applied it. Acts 2, verse 25, 26, Galatians 3:8. The import of which is that Messiah should be Abraham's seed, and that the Gentiles should be blessed in him. And though modern Jews have coined other interpretations of this prophecy, yet the ancient ones understood it in the sense now given. Two things are principally objected to by modern Jews against application of it to the Messiah, and in favour of it tending the whole body of the Israelites. One, they say the word seed cannot be understood in a single person, but is used collectively of a large number. But instances have been given in the preceding chapter where the word seed is used of a single person, so that St. Paul is to be justified when he says in Galatians 3:16, "Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not as to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed which is Christ." 2. They object that no blessing comes to the nations of the world but through the Jews, to which I answer, it is true that salvation is of the Jews, that to them belong the adoption, the glory, and the covenant, Romans 9, verse 4 to 5, and the glory of the law, and the service of God, and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom concerning the flesh Christ came, who is over all, God blessed forever, from whom the nations of the world receive all their blessings. But then we deny that the Gentiles receive any blessings from them, but only as through Messiah Jesus, one of their nation, who was made a curse, that the blessings of Abraham might come upon the Gentiles. But secondly, let us now consider the advantages which the nations of the world were to receive from the Messiah, this promised seed. And it is to be observed that by all the nations of the world, every individual person herein is not intended, but only some of all nations, who with Abraham believe in the same promised seed, as the apostle has taught us to explain this prophecy. So then, says he, Galatians 3:9, they which are of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham. The Jews look upon it to be a sufficient verification of this prophecy that some of the Gentiles, by means of their patriarchs, have been brought to the knowledge of the being, unity, providence, and omnipotence of God, which knowledge is the case of all true blessedness. But the plain meaning of the prophecy is that, though the Messiah was to be of Abraham's seed, yet his posterity alone were not to receive the advantage thereof, but his divine blessings were to extend to the several nations of the world.